On this week's episode of the Geek State, we've got our review of the brand new Bittboy portable game console.
We may not have a Star Wars title yet, but the Nintendo Direct gave us plenty to talk about.
It's Toy Fair time, and brands have gone retro with their offerings this year. Plus, for the 10 people in the world who love Sequest, sit down and hold on to your hats, because Darwin's in HD.
Down with Zelda from the very start. I got the heart, it's Mars to play the part. Down with Zelda.
Stand by alert.
This is it.
50% of the time, this podcast works every time. This is the Geek State.
We're constantly refreshing the Star Wars Twitter account. This is the Geek State, episode number 7. I'm Chris, and you are here for the podcast all about what's cool and going on in the world of geek, from comic books, video games, movies, stuff that we love, stuff that you love. That's why we are all here. And I can't do this. I can't be in the Geek State without my buddy James, and it's a good thing because he's here. James, you ready for the show?
I was able to make it. I'm so ready for the show. We've got a good one cooking here.
Yes. Well, you know, and it's here. One of the things we normally do, we typically record the show earlier on in the week, but there was this hope, this almost new hope, you might say, that there was all these things leading up to like potentially having some, you know, big Star Wars stuff, and I was like, let's wait, let's see if it happens, and it didn't. And I'm starting to think, James, I don't even know if there is a title yet.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, and that's the crazy thing is everyone's, you know, waiting for a title. Like, no one's even expecting a trailer. They just want to know what it's called.
We just want 3 words. It's mostly,
it's incredible.
It's what it, you know. Who knows? Dominic Monaghan on, you might know him as one of the Hobbits, and the guy from Lost. He's in this new Star Wars movie, and he said only J.J. Abrams knows. And I don't know if that's. I doubt that's true because that doesn't make sense from like a giant corporation like Disney. But what if right now they don't really even have it? We're going to talk about Toy Fair because there was some speculation that because Toy Fair was happening, there would be, you know, the licensees would have stuff.
They'd have to have the box art.
Right. Maybe they don't have a title yet. I'm sure.
It's just, what if it comes out and it's just called Star Wars, the working title?
God. I was hearing some of the most ridiculous, you know, title stuff, and we're not going to get into, you know, speculation because it's like, what's the point? We literally know nothing about this next movie. Really, there was some leaked character concepts and stuff, but that's not what's got me excited this week, James.
It's not. No,
despite the fact that I've been constantly, you know, refreshing Twitter or hitting F5 on that YouTube channel. So not too long ago, but between recording last week's show and this week's show, I was on Twitter and I was kind of looking for, you know, folks talking about Sequest, and somebody mentioned that there's a Blu-ray version of Sequest, and it was available in Australia or something, and I thought,
audible gasp.
Oh, dude. Absolutely, because so I go on Amazon, and yeah, sure enough, there's this, you know, listing for Sequest on Blu-ray, and it's all 3 seasons, and I'm like, this has got to be just a up-res of the, you know, the broadcast, you know, 480p masters, and just put on Blu-ray and sold in Australia. Well, I was quickly told by someone who I wish I knew. And I don't have this handy. Some guy on the Twitter told me, no, these are actual high def remasters of the show. So of course at that point I stopped worrying about Star Wars Episode 9 and what the title is or any of that, and so I had to go seek out this copy. It wasn't available. I mean, there was a product listing, but I couldn't get it. So this sort of was one of those situations where I had to find that gray area where I own all of these shows on DVD, with the exception of season 3 because it was never made available in the United States. It's not on streaming. I can't buy it in iTunes. So I went about what people do when they want something on the internet, and you search for it. right?
You flew to Australia.
I flew to Australia. I'm back. That's why we're recording late. And I was so incredibly surprised that what the guy on Twitter said was true, and that how it seemed like no one else, because I can tell how excited people are for this show because no one was talking about this. I've been wanting this for such a long time. The DVD copies are so poorly mastered. Everything's it's very almost blurry and kind of muddy, like the transfer of what they did. So clearly, by watching this, I can tell that there's a the show was shot on 35 millimeter, on film. So the show was rescanned at 1080p, except for any shot that had visual effects, anything that had CG stuff. So like all the exteriors of like the submarine, or if they were standing in front of a blue screen, or anything like that. That footage is up-resed, but it still looks better than it did on the DVD. So for the majority of the show, it's like I'm watching this show with like there's like all this new, almost like a brand new, just like it's like brand new to me. It's like incredible, and I'm just totally geeking out over it. So I threw them on the hard drive, put them on Plex, watching them on my my 4K TV, so it's up-resing, again. But it looks awesome, and I really hope that of course, Universal, they listen to our show. They're members of the Geek State. I'm hoping that when they launch their Universal streaming, their NBC's doing their own streaming service because everybody else is, and they're looking for content. I'm like, look, you got HD versions of this show right here. Make it available, and I'll subscribe so I can have this HD version of Sequest when I want to, right? So,
I mean, it's a simple request, right?
I'm not asking for much.
They know that they could satisfy dozens of people if they just provided this service.
There's like 14 people on Twitter that I can rely on.
There are tens of us.
There are tens of us. The Sequest family is strong, which is so surprising to me. The fandom. It was, a show that's not been on the air for 20 years. It's not a surprise that it's not rampant on the internet. You're not seeing Sequest Con and all that. But it was a show on network television from Steven Spielberg and ran for 3 seasons. It's surprising the lack of like excitement, and it always I've seen it show up on these lists of TV shows that could use a revival, and I'm not kidding. You can literally Google this. I'm not the only person that wants this. But anyways,
you'd just be disappointed, Chris. You'd just be disappointed.
I know. Well,
it won't stack up to your fan fiction.
No, which I won't admit if I did or did not write speculative scripts based off of what I thought season 4 would have been like. Thankfully, I don't think it's anywhere on the internet anymore. For a while, there was a fan website, and they still had it, like stuff I had put out on the internet, like back in like '96 or something. So it lived on for a little bit. Thankfully, I don't think it's anywhere to be found. So enough about Sequest.
No, more Sequest.
That's what the fans want. That's why they're here on the Geek State.
I promise it wasn't lulling me into a deep slumber.
Yeah, we're the podcast that if you've nothing else to listen to, or you need something to fall asleep about while listening to me talk about Sequest, well, guess what? You came to the right place.
Today is your episode.
I know. I'm excited. A little bit later in the show, I just recently got back from a camping trip, and we took along some new recently acquired gadgets from Amazon, and I have one as my pick of the week. It is awesome. It was surprising how good it was, and I can't wait to share that with you. And also, I'm excited because I've got President's Day off, and the Umbrella Academy was released on Netflix over the weekend. So I'm gonna try to binge that. I've been hearing some really good stuff about that. James, you've been up to stuff. You saw some new goodness from Mr. Avatar himself, James Cameron, and Desperado Robert Rodriguez. Tell us about your experience with Alita.
Yeah, so I went and saw Alita, and I would like to preface this brief review with the fact that I went a little hard in the paint the night before, so I was not feeling great at 10:30 in the morning when I decided to go see this movie. But it wasn't great, Chris. It was not great at all. There was it was a very anime movie in the fact that a lot of the characters' names I couldn't pronounce or remember, and the story itself was just very pieced together. It was like set piece, and then you went to another set piece, and it was very disjointed. It was not great, but Don't worry, they set it up for a sequel, so we do have that to look forward to.
I was looking at the box office returns. I mean, it's early. We're still in the first opening weekend, and it's not doing that bad. I mean, I know budget-wise, they spent a lot of money on this movie, and it's been in development for a really long time. And I'm sure a lot of your critiques are coming from the fact that it is an anime.
Go
product.
ahead.
It's coming from it's an adaptation, so they're staying true, I'm sure, with the names and stuff.
I'm sure, and I'm sure if you enjoyed the anime, I think you will very much like this movie. I feel like it stops. Essentially, it has a build up. And then it stops before the buildup happens, which was a little disturbing to me. But yeah, it has a conclusion, but it is not the conclusion that anyone was expecting, I guess. It just stopped before it got to the point you were expecting it to get to, if that makes any sense without spoiling anything.
Gosh, and what's so disappointing with I guess storytelling like that, when you have a piece of fiction, a story that you're going to adapt, something that is already going to be a pretty niche audience, to wedge the hopes and dreams that you're going to get a sequel, not to put the big climax of your story. So let's say they didn't adapt the whole anime. Again, I'm not familiar with the original content, and I'm sure you aren't either. But say they've got this is like a potentially 6-hour story, and we're going to keep the big thing from happening for later, hoping that this does well enough. But if it doesn't, we're just leaving everybody kind of hanging. And to bring up Star Wars again, but that's what I do. At least it's not Sequest. I mean, that's what George did when he wrote, his original draft of Star Wars. It was this big sprawling epic, and the Death Star stuff wouldn't happen until the very end. But he was like, I don't know if we're ever going to get to make this again. So let's kind of trim it up and bring this Death Star thing, up to the end of this first one. So at least we have a solid beginning, middle, and end. And if that's the end of Star Wars, then
yeah, the one piece, I guess thought that I had is to compare this to without spoiling anything is essentially Alita is the climax of the movie is like if the Phantom Menace ended at the pod racing scene.
Oh, okay.
Like it's something that you feel like should have been like part of the movie, sure, but it's like it didn't matter. It was it wasn't great. It was fun to watch. Don't get me wrong. It's definitely worth if you just want an action movie or like a story. You're not too concerned with complexity. I guess It's definitely worth a watch, but it's just not. It wasn't for me.
Well, it's disappointing. I still feel like I don't know. I feel like this. If I'm gonna see this, I feel like it probably should be in a theater. And I know that you're not able to enjoy, the 3D aspect of a release like this, but I've heard, just technically speaking, if you can find a theater that has it in 3D with a laser projection, the 3D effects and the whole thing is just really outstanding. So
I could definitely see that being the case.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It definitely has a lot of set pieces that would be pretty cool in 3D.
Well, of course,
I assume.
You got James Cameron and Robert Rodriguez who will pretty much anytime they have a chance to do something in 3D, they'll do it.
Right.
So that's but we've got some bigger movies coming to look forward to. So with that being said, let's move into the headlines. All right, well, Star Wars Episode 9 has officially wrapped principal photography. J.J. Abrams on his official Twitter and Instagram accounts posted a picture of Oscar Isaacs, John Boyega, and Daisy Ridley. They were hugging it out, while the sun was setting in the sky. One of the things I noticed was Daisy Ridley's hairstyle. I mean, it's consistent with what she's done, for the whole thing. And I'm not, by no means like a fashion expert, and I'm not criticizing, but I think it kind of is sort of more or less a clue to maybe where this photo was taken, what was going on. Finn and Poe are wearing their newer episode 9 outfits that we've kind of seen in some leaks. But Daisy's dressed in what is very similar to what she wore in The Force Awakens. Her hairstyle is very similar to The Force Awakens. She's got her staff in it. And there's been some talk online that this is stuff that is being shot in Jordan, and the desert kind of area. So I don't know if it's Jakku or if it's Tatooine, if this could be a shot from, who knows, during production. But it's stuff to shoot to kind of match other stuff that was shot during The Force Awakens, or even I've seen floated out there that this is stuff that is her and Leia, and she has to kind of match the look of some of the other stuff that, how she looked in those earlier cutscenes and stuff that they're using to mine for Carrie Fisher. So we don't know. Again, we don't know anything about this. But we do know that it's the three of them, and they've wrapped production last night. We're recording this on Sunday. Last night was the film's wrap party, and John Boyega was doing the Instagram story of that. It was big, elaborate, whoop-de-doo. But also nothing, we really haven't seen anything public or official except for leaks. But the upcoming Disney Plus series, The Mandalorian, has also wrapped for its first season. There was an image of a Mandalorian helmet that was posted on Instagram from somebody in the crew. It was all signed by everybody on the cast and crew. And then the caption was saying, "Congratulations on wrapping the season 1 production of all this stuff." And because we have no title now, granted, in a few minutes or right now, ABC is going to start playing The Force Awakens, which back in like the 80s would have been like the biggest deal ever, right? Like,
get your VHS players ready.
Yeah, exactly. They waited enough time for everybody to go out and buy the movie. Then they'd finally put it on TV so everybody could get their free copy with all the fun commercials.
Campbell's Chicken Noodle Soup.
I still remember, like, I had my Return of the Jedi copy for the longest time was taped off of an NBC broadcast, and I had the commercials cut out, but it always had like the first 10 seconds of a commercial, and then I'd hit pause, and then it would come back to, and now back to the movie,
right.
So some good memories there. I still enjoy the holiday special that you can get online on YouTube with all the original commercials, intact. Like, that's the bootleg version that I had all that in there. But the more that I'm thinking about it, unless right now, like in the next couple of hours, they surprise everybody during this ABC, broadcast TV premiere of The Force Awakens, I honestly don't think we're going to see anything till April. At this point, we're getting kind of too close to Star Wars Celebration in Chicago for them to put out anything that is, I mean, besides the title. I think that might be the only thing, but I think that's just going to pop up on a Twitter, account or something.
You think maybe title in April and maybe teaser then,
no,
and then possibly first trailer during Avengers?
No, I really honestly think now that kind of my revised timeline, I'm thinking if we don't get anything tonight, there's nothing really big coming up except, I guess, the Oscars. But I honestly think they're saving The Mandalorian, a trailer for The Mandalorian, a teaser trailer to Episode 9 at Celebration. I think we'll probably get the title beforehand, but I can't imagine the anticipation being in the large, the opening night Celebration panel, the one that's big and it's simulcast across different convention rooms, and they've got the very first thing they show is this teaser trailer, and it has the title at the end. Like, at this point, kind of, why not?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
save
it's
that.
just so strange that we've seen nothing.
Yeah.
It's kind of odd. But.
It's so different than the days of the Revenge of the Sith, when they had a literal webcam that you could pay for hyperspace access on StarWars.com and tune into this webcam. It was updated like, one picture a minute or whatever. And you could be like, oh, there's a person in there combing out, a Wookiee, costume, and I think they're on a blue screen set, and I think that's so-and-so, there was, and then George Lucas himself would even put out, a picture every once in a while, and it was his George Lucas Selects. It was like leaks directly from production. It's a different era, James. I miss it.
Yeah, it definitely is a different era. The internet investigates things much more thoroughly nowadays than it did before. So I'm sure there's reasons behind that. But whether it's for location and things like that they don't want to give away. But yeah, it is kind of crazy how little we've heard about, what I assume will be one of the bigger movies of this year.
Yeah. Exactly.
But so just switching gears a little bit, we did get a little bit of Nintendo news. Nintendo does these little surprise directs throughout the year rather than having a big E3 conference type thing. They kind of do these little 30-minute vignettes, if you will, where they drop. They're all pre-production. It's not like a press conference, but they're just videos and kind of set up. And we got some pretty interesting announcements, some things the internet was expecting, some things that they weren't. So just to run down kind of the highlights, and Chris, feel free to stop me if you want to comment on any of this, because I'm going to rapid fire.
Sure.
But we got Super Mario Maker 2 was announced with a release window of June. So if you're into that type of stuff, that's fun. I like watching Super Mario Maker, the original one, because people would create these crazy levels and then people would try and beat them, and that was kind of fun to watch.
On that one, you said I can interrupt you, so I'm going to.
Absolutely.
I thought
it would be maybe 2 or 3, but no, we'll start at 1. Just kidding.
I can guarantee you, I don't have anything to say about the next few. But correct me if I'm wrong. So I did not have a Nintendo Wii U, so I didn't get to experience this. I did, however, of course, see people's, really insane levels that they made. But this is something too where like you can create a level and then make it available for other people to play and all that, right? I think you kind of that's
absolutely. Yeah, you can every level you create gets a level code. You can share that level code, or people can search and try and find popular levels or whatever based on ratings and things. And then there's different categories for like impossible or like stuff like that. So you can kind of filter it down. Or there's like fun, where it's just like people just creating like whatever. Right. And there's like databases online you can look at if you're trying to find some good levels to play that just have like all the level keys and things like that. So,
I am excited about this one. That to me sounds fun.
Should be pretty interesting. I'm not on the creator side, but I definitely enjoy playing the levels.
I think that would be me too. Like I would play it, I would make some stuff, but I think I spent most of my time just exploring other people's stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of going away from the show notes here for a second, there was some other stuff that was announced, being Super Smash Bros. Ultimate got its 3.0 update. That included Piranha Plant as a playable character if you wanted to play as them. Also got a release date for Joker. I don't have that in front of me though, but you can Google it if you would like to. Smash theme amiibos are on their way, including Pokemon Trainer, Metal Gear Solid Snake, and Simon Belmont. So those are coming out. Couple small. They always do little indie game announcements. Box Boy plus Box Girl is coming out. This is a 2-player co-op like platforming game. If you're into that type of thing. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker got some new DLC, which is coming out.
I really like that. I really like that game.
It is a lot of fun. It's kind of a neat little puzzle game. Yeah. It's very interesting to play a Mario game without a jump button.
Yes.
But it is a very, very fun game. It has new DLC coming out, which is both paid and free. So there's different pieces that will be free for you. Previously announced at the Game Awards was Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. Now we know it's called Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, The Black Order. It is a Switch exclusive, which is a little strange because the other two were not exclusives. Mm-hmm. They came out on all platforms. There were some new details and some character announcements there. Also, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night got an update, which is a Castlevania-esque game by I don't know his full name, but Iga is the director behind that. He is the individual who directed Symphony of the Night, so what a lot of people consider the best Castlevania game. He's kind of broken his ties with Konami and did a Kickstarter for this game, and it is coming out in the summer, so that's pretty exciting for those fans of that. We got news of an Assassin's Creed 3 remaster, which we knew was coming on other platforms, but is now coming on the Switch, and that will actually on Switch will also include Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation, which is the PlayStation Vita title, so that's pretty exciting. Let's see, what else did we get? We got Tetris 99 was announced and released, which is a Tetris Battle Royale. I haven't had time to get into this because I've still been playing. Apex Legends has been meeting all of my Battle Royale needs as of late. But yeah, Tetris Battle Royale, which just seems pretty fun. Essentially, you're playing Tetris against 99 other people, and you can select targets, being the other people. And when you complete rows, it adds trash to their stack. So
that's fantastic.
It's a pretty cool little idea. I'm very interested to give that a shot.
And it's free.
It is free. Yeah, it's absolutely free. And it does. I don't know if there's any microtransactions or anything. I can't imagine there would be. I don't know what they would be. There's also Fire Emblem Three Houses, which I'm not super sure exactly what that is outside of a game. I know it's a strategy game, but I don't follow Fire Emblem very closely. It definitely has diehard fans, though. They're just not my cup of tea, mainly because I don't like crap in my tea. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is coming to. This was one of my, back in our S'more Geeks days, this was one of my recommendations. I absolutely love this game. It's a game by Ninja Theory. And it is coming out on Nintendo Switch pretty soon, next few months. It says spring was the window we got. Okay. Let's see, Yoshi's Crafted World. We did get a release date. I think we already had the release date, but they released a demo as well for that. We also got news that Final Fantasy 7, 9, 10, and 10-2 are all coming to the Switch. I believe 7 is going to be coming next month in March, and then
I think 9's available now.
9, I think 9 is available now. 7 is in March, and I'm not sure that they've given a date on 10 and 10-2. And then the biggest announcement, and the one I'm most excited about, is a new old Legend of Zelda game. They are remaking Link's Awakening, which is it's not underrated. To the people who have played it, it is very appropriately rated, but it is underplayed. It is a great Zelda game. I definitely would suggest anyone who has the ability to find it and play it, do it, because it's come out on a number of platforms. Or just wait until it comes out on Switch. I believe later this year, they said. Which is pretty exciting. It looks very true to the original, being updated graphics, but it did show a few playboards, and if you get on the internet, it shows that's screen with the screen that it's from the original game, and it looks like they're sticking pretty yeah, they're very true to it. Keeping it true. Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
The opening animation, they have this whole opening, in the trailer. It's all 2D animation. It's Link on the ocean and stuff. And I hadn't played this game in so long. It was on the Game Boy, like the black and white old, green and yellow, whatever, Game Boy. Well, I loaded it up and was playing it, and I was like, gosh, this is so, like, the opening. You once you launch the game, it's so perfect. Like the art style of the actual gameplay, the 3D top down kind of skewed perspective, but it also looks like there's like platformy aspects that I don't remember as a kid. So I'm excited to dive back into this.
And there's a big flying whale, so there's that to look forward to.
Goombas.
And Goombas. There are a couple Goombas. And then also, just as an aside, this game was also released on Game Boy Color as Link's Awakening DX, and I would suggest that version if you have the ability to play that.
I will seek that out, because I do have it loaded up as the original Game Boy, but it would be nice to have some color. So some other color that was coming from New York City transition, because toys have color. Was that great? That was not great. That wasn't a good
segue.
We'll take it.
It's
all I've got for you E3 tonight. Toy Fair took place this weekend in New York City. It's wrapping up. It should be already done by now. This is basically the big industry show. It's sort of like what E3 was, but for toys. And everybody comes out to show off the new Legos and new Hot Wheels and what's coming, and for Walmarts and Targets and stuff to come out and check out what's new and what's coming, and to meet with their toy brands and make deals and stuff. And notably, of course, there's millions of brands, not really, but there's a lot of brands that I'm going to skip over because to me, I'm not interested as much in them. I saw some cool stuff, some new Ninja Turtles that are coming in the original animated style. They're getting some revamp, a lot of retro. I really I'm kind of digging. There's Transformers. There's going to be some. Walmart's is going to have the Soundwave cassettes done in that completely, here's what they look like on store shelves back in the 80s. I think that's awesome. I can't wait for those. But starting off with Funko on Friday on their Instagram, they just were doing reveal after reveal, just one after another. Some notables. There's a lot of, just go check it out. Their original Funko on Instagram and Twitter. But the ones that I thought were most interesting to me, they got this a cool collection from The Simpsons. It includes Homer in his moo-moo. And Radioactive Man and some others, Bartman. A couple Johnny Cash pops, which I will immediately purchase. I love Johnny Cash. We got some for fans of the boy bands from the 90s. You got NSYNC and Backstreet Boys. Barnes and Nobles, for some reason, will have a 7-pack of the BTS K-pop group. Cheers, Community, Jaws, including the shark, Caddyshack, including the gopher. And the one that I think got the most kind of buzz initially, because I've heard people asking for it so much, is they're doing a line from The Office. And that will have Jim and Pam and a few other characters, including, God, what's his name with the chili? The guy he's...
Stan? No.
Stan's
I don't know. I don't watch the show.
Anyways, yeah, he's got his chili pot. This is going to haunt me until we finish the show. Anyways, and they showed off some other cool stuff from their Pez line. Got some new Star Wars stuff coming. Hasbro is where I was kind of hoping that, we would get some kind of leak or something, for episode 9, but they really didn't. But they did have some new stuff, something that's interesting if you like to buy your stuff online, because it's almost impossible to find Hasbro stuff actually in stores. They replaced the Hasbro toy shop with a thing called Hasbro Pulse, and it's mostly just a revamp of the store, but they have some pre-ordering, and if you sign up right now and you make a purchase, you automatically get free shipping for the next year. So it's kind of worth checking it out. I picked up I pre-ordered the Yak Face on Vintage card if you're interested. But one of the cool things about Pulse is they're kind of testing some different ways to, I guess, purchase things and collect. One of them is a subscription service for the Star Wars Black Series, which is the 6-inch collector's line. You can subscribe for it, and that for that year they will send you one of each of the Black Series figures that are produced. I don't have pricing on that. I would assume it would be basically retail price plus some shipping, and maybe there's some sort of premium to make sure you get them all. But I thought that was pretty interesting. But what was kind of the coolest thing, in my opinion, and for some vintage collectors, they kind of were a little upset about, Hasbro's putting out a line called the the Retro Collection, and it's essentially re-releases of the classic 1978 action figures from Kenner. And they're on the, what looks like the original card back. The figures look exactly the same. They look, by that, I mean, they barely look like the characters.
They look bad.
Han has a weird shaped head. Luke has yellow hair. But I'm super pumped because it looks to be something that's going to be Target exclusive, which means it'll be hard to find. But they released the 6 figures that will be showing up first. That's Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, Vader, and a Stormtrooper. But what got the internet kind of talking was, what if they make other characters from either from the original movies that never got an action figure, or if they were to take the opportunity to say, okay, what would Qui-Gon Jinn look like as a 1978 action figure from Kenner? If they were to release a Obi-Wan Kenobi, like a young Obi-Wan, or Anakin Skywalker from the Clone Wars, what would that look like? That would do really, really well for Hasbro. And so there was some speculation and some of that talk, and then we got kind of confirmation that they were sort of doing that with Grand Moff Tarkin, who, the big bad guy main character from A New Hope. Granted, old man action figures probably wouldn't sell that well to kids, but he never got an action figure back in the day, and he is going to be released. Here's the caveat, because they know collectors will want him. They're going to bundle him with an Escape the Death Star board game. So if you want this action figure, which the rest will retail for $9 to $10, to get this guy, you're going to have to spend probably around $30 to get the board game that you don't want. So you can get this Grand Moff Tarkin, and he's done in the style from the 70s and 80s.
There's going to be a lot of board game onlys on eBay.
Yes.
A lot of people trying to shuck these things out. My only problem with the idea of creating a bunch of new characters in these roles, like if you want to do the classic characters, that's fine. But like when you mentioned like Obi-Wan and Anakin Skywalker from the Clone Wars, those two characters with the definition and molding that they had then, that the original characters were made of, would look exactly the same. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that you could really get enough detail to where you're like, oh, this one's completely outside of the clothes. Like, that would be my only concern. It's like if you get too many of them, they're all going to start looking the same.
Well, okay, so what if it's Ahsoka, or it's
But that's fine. But
Captain
it's like,
Rex.
Sure. I mean that I see what you're saying, but that would worry me when you get 10 of them lined up and 6 of them look exactly the same.
Right. No, I totally get that. Just one can. I'm just I'm hanging on hope. I think it's going to go well, and I don't think these action figures cost much to make.
They certainly don't look like it.
One thing to note about this, the card backs have some like visual, like almost like they've been in a box in your attic, kind of wear and tear around the edges. That's just the way that the box art's printed, and also there's a giant graphic on the front that says Retro Collection, and it looks like it's supposed to be a sticker, but from folks at Toy Fair found out that it's not a sticker, that's a part of the package. So if you're hoping to be able to snag some of these up and try to pass them off on eBay as original vintage on card, Vader with the vinyl cape, you can't, because it's, first of all, there's going to be all sorts of safety and warning stuff on the back that wasn't required back in the 70s. But plus this giant sticker. Speaking of Darth Vader, Hasbro showed off what they're calling Hyper Real, which is a new line of figures they're calling it's an 8-inch scale. 8 inches would approximately be like a 6 foot tall person. Vader's taller, so his figure is bigger. Darth Vader is the first one from this line. What's neat about it is all the joints are hidden. So if you're familiar with like some of the Sideshow collectibles, they've got an internal structure, and you don't see the joints. And this will also do that as well. It has a metal interior frame, hidden joints, fabric, material on the outside, and honestly, kind of a really good value if you're not in the market for that Sideshow level quality. The stuff from Hot Toys, which is fantastic. It's ridiculous how good that stuff looks, but you don't want to spend $400, $600, $800. These will retail for $80 when they come out in retail, and about $30 if you just wait about 6 months. So
take out your visual scanning.
This is a feature presentation.
And now, on with the show.
All right, so this week, now James, I know in the past we've done a show on retro gaming, so I recommend, if you have just joined us recently, which, by the way, welcome everybody, to go check out that show. We talk about some of our favorite video games from the retro era, SNES, Nintendo, Game Boy, all that fun stuff. Sega, in your case, right, James? You're a Sega boy. Sega kid.
I did have a Sega, yes. That is correct.
Am I mischaracterizing you? I apologize.
Yeah, I would say my main one was N64, but I did not have a Super Nintendo. I think that's what you're referencing.
Yes.
I only had the Sega Genesis. I had the NES, Sega Genesis, and 64.
Got it.
Was my childhood. Anyways.
To me, I will say the Game Boy, the original Game Boy, was the biggest coolest thing I ever was gifted as a child. It was given to me by my grandmother at Christmas. And I think, and what's so cool about it is I didn't ask her for it. This is a cool grandma. I'll just tell you this. She saw me at my aunt and uncle's house. They had one of, I don't know what this is to me, but it was my aunt's nephew. He was over, and he had a Game Boy, and it just come out, and I was playing it, and my grandma must have seen like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing. Chris loves this. He needs this for Christmas. I need to solidify my place as greatest grandmother of all time. And she did. She got me the Game Boy. I'm choking up here. No, she got me the Game Boy. She got me a case for it, and she got me Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Fall of the Foot Clan, and Super Mario Land.
That is a rare one, the Fall of the Foot Clan. Yeah,
so I've got those original cartridges, and every once in a while I get this, as one does, you get this wave of nostalgia, and I was seeing on the internet, on the YouTubes, all these people talking about this thing called a Bittboy. And you might be familiar. I know, James, when I posted about it, you asked me, because you've seen stuff like this all over, like Alibaba and
right
on eBay and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. You see a lot of them. I've definitely heard good things about the Bittboy itself, though. You definitely see a lot of them that raise questions. Just the questions that I had asked you was, did it come with games preloaded? Things like that.
Right.
Making sure it had a black backlit screen. Some of them don't have that.
I exactly. And what's shocking too, because I was doing my research, looking at this stuff. I think there's this mold. The case that this device is in is so commonplace because there are a lot of others that look just like this. Now, granted, it's supposed to look like a Game Boy, so you've got your design inspiration right there. But yeah, you're right. Like a lot of them do come with like pirated, shovelware, 520 games on it, and with no SD card, no way to modify or add. This thing comes with 0 games. In fact, this won't even turn on if you don't plug in a SD card into it. It just it goes to the loading screen and stays there. You have to add. This is a bring your own ROMs situation.
Of carts that you own, so I assume you only have the Foot Clan, and
I have many Game Boy games. I will show off my collection just to kind of back me up here, but. So the thing that stands out about the Bittboy is that it's fairly inexpensive. If you buy it directly from them, it's $39. You can also find this on Amazon Prime, which is how I got it. I paid a little bit more, only because I wasn't willing to wait for it to come from China, especially when I bought it. It was during Chinese New Year, and everything's closed. So you can't even, they're not processing orders until, a little bit later in the month. Well, that time has passed already, but I have it in my hand right now. It's a little bit smaller than what I anticipated. The screen size, it's like 2.5 inches, but what's great, it's an IPS color screen, and the color of it, the viewing angle, it is absolutely perfect. It's amazing. It's got a rechargeable battery. I'm feeling like 3 to 4 hours, I guess, playtime, which obviously wish was better. Pretty good. The only thing I did not know before I bought this, so I'm just letting you guys know in the Geek State, and to James too, if this is something that you want to pick up. This is a great device if you're going to play like Tetris or like Mega Man or just a regular types of platformers. It plays NES, Game Boy, and Game Boy Color games only. Now, there are some custom firmwares that are being developed right now that'll let you do others, but that's what it comes stock. It's just Nintendo, Game Boy, and Game Boy Color games. It does not natively let you save your game in the game. So if you were to start a game of Pokemon, and you're like, I'm going to, and what's your name? Chris. And you start playing, and you were to save the game and you were to quit and come back, your game's not there because this thing isn't modifying the ROM.
Right. It's not resaving the package.
Right, and then on my PlayStation Portable, my PSP, it does. I can start a game and it saves it natively on that ROM. This doesn't do that here. Now you can do save states, but I've heard that because some games rely on the internal clock and like calendar kind of aspects of like the Game Boy Color and stuff, that's going to mess you up too. So you kind of have to know that going in, that some games, while you can play them just fine if you're just going to sit and continuously play this, the date and time stuff doesn't quite work. But I don't think for the price of it being like under $50 is that big of a knock on something like this, because the sound is great. I'm going to turn this on. I want you to hear it. I'm going to see if this mic will pick this up. It probably sounds like garbage playing it through the mic. But like I said, the screen's pretty good. There is some light leaking through the actual plastic case. Let's go with let's see here. Let's pick up something that's familiar to folks. Let's pick up this Ninja Turtles game here. The sound is really loud. You can adjust it. It does not have a I think I have it all turned down. Some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. If you can't, I don't know if you can hear that. Probably even can't hear that.
I can hear it. It sounds like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Just a quick question. On the save states, does it have like hotkeys, like shortcuts to do save and load, or do you have to go into a menu? How does that work?
Oh, great question, James. Okay, so the Bittboy on its face has the D-pad, has the A and B, start and select, and has two turbo buttons that also kind of have like alternate usage. So if you hold down select and you press the B button turbo, that will like make the screen brighter. The other one will make it darker. But there's also a reset button. If you hold that takes you back to the menu page. But if you just tap it once, it brings up a menu that lets you change the aspect ratio of the game. So if you want to have the game stretch out to the whole screen, which I do, it looks fine. Or you can have it go 4:3, and it squishes the image down to what it was originally designed for. And then you have the save state option where you can save and load. You got 3 slots per game. So to open up a save state, you just launch the game, press the R button, hit load, open that save state, and boom, you're right there. It works in Pokemon. If you were heading out and you're in the tall grass and you hit that and hit save and turn it off, come back, launch Pokemon, it's like, do you want to start a new game? And you're like, no, but whatever. And you hit load and it'll bring you back. But I haven't played it long enough to know if some of the other titles, like the more, I guess, like the Game Boy Color versions that had stuff to have had to do with timing and stuff, if that has any effect on it. I don't know, but I think it's awesome, and I think it's a great option if you want to play Nintendo, Game Boy Color games on the go. It's super tiny. It fits in your pocket really well. If you got to commute on a subway or a train, or if you're taking a flight, which I am this week, I'm going to take this along with me, so it's going to be pretty cool.
Let's look around the region and take our pick of the week.
Shut up and take my money.
All right, it's time for our pick of the week, and this is like official Geek State recommendation. So you can guarantee the stuff that we pick here on the show are worthy. I don't remember where we left off last week, but James, why don't you go first?
I will go first. I'm happy to go first. I'm always honored when you allow me to go first. My thing is perfect for classic video game collectors. It's called the 1-Up card. A lot of times games are finicky when they're 30 years old, so sometimes they need to be cleaned, and this is the easiest way to do that. A lot of times, about 90% of the time, if you have an old game that just doesn't work, it just needs its pins cleaned and maybe to be air dusted if you take the back off the card. But the easiest way to do it before was to take some alcohol, rubbing alcohol, Q-tip, scrub it, and it did a pretty good job of doing it. But what the 1-Up card is, it's specifically designed to do this. So it has one side that's supposed to get wet, one side that's used to buff. So you just put a little alcohol on the wet side, scrub your pin connectors, and then flip the card over and scrub it again to buff out anything, and it gets way more than a Q-tip ever did on some of the carts. And being somebody who does purchase quite a few off of like eBay, you don't necessarily get to look at them before. But I've definitely had a few where they were super cheap for a pretty decent game, and it said it didn't work, and I was like, well, I'll take a flyer on it, and you end up getting like a $30 game for $5 because all it needed to do was be cleaned. So I'd strongly suggest the 1-Up card. You can usually get them on Amazon or through their website directly, but if that is something that you collect or buy retro games, it is something that you definitely want to have in your back pocket.
That's awesome. So I mentioned earlier in the show that I went camping. We took along a ton of stuff. We were car camping. So let's just kind of, you pull up and you've got the water and electricity and all that kind of stuff. So this time we took along a lot of things that raise some eyebrows, because normally when you go camping, you're thinking like, I'm going to make some coffee over the campfire and all that. And we did that, but we also brought along our Keurig because we had electricity. But the thing that surprised me the most was a speaker from Anker, and it's called the Sound Core. And it's a little, it's not very big. It's maybe not even maybe about 8 inches long, a few inches. It's a little rectangular speaker. You wouldn't even think much by it. It's waterproof. You can drop it. But one thing we noticed, we started playing music on Friday, and we left that speaker, and it was still playing music. And then it still played music all of Saturday. We stopped it at some points during that time. And then since we brought dogs along with us this time, we played it next to their kennels to kind of distract them from all the outside noise. And it played all throughout the night too. This thing boasts a 24-hour battery life, and I swear it outperformed 24 hours. This thing is ridiculous. The sound quality is amazing, and it retails for like $30 on Amazon. It's absolute 100% would recommend. The battery life alone is insane, which doesn't surprise me because Anker makes batteries, and this is kind of their wheelhouse, and they made a really great speaker. So if you're in the market for a Bluetooth speaker that is not going to be like, oh man, I forgot to charge the speaker, more than likely you're good. If you keep this thing, charged every once in a while, 24 hours, ridiculous. Good, gets nice and loud, sounds really good. Totally worth checking out. So that's about it for our show here on the Geek State. Please join us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. You can even join our Discord server and chit chat with the rest of the Geek State citizens, as you will, and all that. Help us out by sharing and retweeting and getting the word out about the show each week. I'm watching new subscribers and new people come on board, and James and we're both super excited to have everybody here for the podcast each week. And so from all of us here at the Geek State, stay excellent to each other, and we'll see you next time.
It's Darth Vader, Lando Calrissian, and 4LOM from Kenner's Star Wars Return of the Jedi collection. Part of the Star Wars collection of 48 action figures, each sold separately. Now there's a brand new action figure not yet available in stores. It's 9num. You can get 9num free with 5 proofs of purchase from any Star Wars action figures. Details on specially marked packages. Offer expires June 15th, 1983. Darth Vader, Lando Calrissian, 4LOM, and other action figures each sold separately from Kenner's Star Wars Return of the Jedi collection.
So dumb.
I'm gonna make you watch it. I'm gonna make you watch Sequest. I'm gonna put a good episode that doesn't need a lot of explanation or backstory. I'll airdrop it or Google Drive it to you.
One of the game stores that I go to has a copy of Sequest on. I think it's either Sega Genesis or Super Nintendo. I can't ever remember. And every time I'm there, I want to buy it just to
and they're all different.
See how bad it could possibly be.
They're all different versions of the game. There's a Game Boy version of Sequest. There's a Super Nintendo version of Sequest, and I think the Sega version is different than the Super Nintendo version.
Oh man!
Like they're all different types of games.
I guess I'll have to play all of them to really experience the whole thing.
To get the full picture, to get a full understanding of my fandom. Yeah.
And then there's Echo the Dolphin, which is clearly based on Darwin.
It was such a missed out. They could have just rebranded it. It would have been great.
So stupid.
All right, man. You have a great night.
Yes, sir. You too. Have a good one.
All right, bye.
Bye.